Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Wednesday, June 28th, 2023. And our top story today, relieving senior isolation and fostering intergenerational relationships. And joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Anthony Cirillo is with Sage Stream. Anthony, so great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thanks, Jeff. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's great. And I want to learn a lot more. I think the audience does about Sage Stream. Before we get there, though, how pervasive is loneliness and isolation among our seniors today?
Yeah. So first of all, the whole genesis when we do get the Sage Stream was built on a problem, right? When you're pitching to people, what's the problem you're solving? The problem we're solving was for social isolation because it is of epidemic proportions. And even while we were launching this, or before we were launching this, we kind of knew that loneliness was pervasive. But after, and just several weeks ago, the Surgeon General just made a proclamation about just how bad social isolation is. And it's not just among seniors, though. That's the population that we normally think of. There's a statistic out there. I'm probably going to butcher it, but there's many millions of seniors, let's put it that way, who are called what they call elder orphans, who are living alone by themselves. And, some of them are, I just did a segment on a local TV program in the Charlotte area, and it was about making the distinction between loneliness and being alone. And I was joking at the time my wife was going away for the weekend, so I was going to be alone physically. But was I going to be lonely? No, not necessarily, because I had lots of different things to do. So even if you live alone, it's not necessarily that you're suffering from loneliness and isolation, because it all depends on how you live your life. But the grim facts are that it's the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And so it impacts, obviously, your physical health, your mental health. And there's been increasing studies that show it impacts, the likelihood of getting dementia. So it is pervasive. What's an interesting twist on all of this is that we know that the pandemic sort of brought to the forefront the whole idea of being alone in isolation, and different people, came through it in different ways and are still coming through it. But interestingly is that a lot of seniors, especially able-bodied and what were otherwise socially active seniors, have in some ways have gotten worse since things have opened up, because a lot of older people suffer from chronic conditions, and they're a little bit wary of going out in public, with restrictions lifted. I guess they were a lot more comfortable when there was masks and distancing and all the other things that are in place. And, there's a great article in the Times, several months ago, but it was highlighting this one couple, and, you look at them, they're vibrant, but, she had diabetes, he had another kind of chronic condition. And frankly, they were afraid to go outside anymore. So it's certainly pervasive. But again, it's not just older adults. And of course, social media and being glued to our devices all the time, doesn't help.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't help. And I'm glad you brought up younger people and their mental health. But I also glad you brought up that social isolation can bring up trigger dementia, or it certainly doesn't help. Hearing loss is another reason for people to get dementia. How do we engage? A lot more of seniors now are aging in place. That is the big trend now is, hey, I don't want to go be a part of a community. I want to stay in my house. I want to be in my original house where I lived most of my life. How is that contributing? Because it makes delivery of services a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, well, I mean, guilty on that one. I'm a boomer, and as we retrofit our house, we're putting the grab bars in and things like that. I don't have a downstairs bedroom. That would be an issue, but there's always elevators, right? So, but it's true. And the one thing I do say about, when you talk about organized communities like assisted living and independent living and things like that, is that the big takeaway for me for them is the socialization factor, because we could pretty much bring in anything to the home, right? We can have things delivered. We have telehealth services. I mean, more and more we're finding that, with technology and AI, and there's so many, solutions out there, whether it's Alexa based or whatever, it might be home monitoring solutions. They could tell if you've fallen probably before you've even hit the floor, type of thing. So there's many ways to keep you safe, but social isolation is a huge issue. So that's, when we do talk about Sage Stream, I'll talk a little bit about the intergenerational piece of this, because, it's going to take a community to kind of, solve that piece of it, because, there are people who, obviously there's church groups out there that can help. There's something called the Villages Network, and there's one in Charlotte. There's one here in Lake Norman. These are a group of volunteers who adopt different seniors and go out. And you're seeing a lot more young people are more mission motivated than I think we ever were. And they're taking up causes. And part of that is to be engaged with older adults. So I think there are ways to age in place and still be socially engaged. On the other hand, I've done surveys with activity directors in assisted living, and one surprised me like no other. Was a pretty well-heeled community, in terms of they had all the gadgets and gizmos to offer activities like virtual reality goggles and things like that. And they surveyed their residents, and the number one issue their residents identified as being of concern to them was they felt alone in an organized, socially, active community. So you can be alone in an organized, assisted living, independent, continuing care community. So, I don't think aging in place, maybe you're a little more prone to it, but it can happen anywhere.
Yeah, and being connected. Look, I mean, you have loved ones and you have friends, and you built those relationships. You can't just, I guess, put them together, in 30 seconds, or even if you're in, they have to develop and grow. Before we go to commercial break, I want to ask, and we're going to talk about Sage Stream in the commercial break. But let's tee it up. Let's talk about the importance of entertainment, and I don't want to talk about Netflix, and I don't want to talk about Amazon Prime Video and everyone else that I left out. Hey, if you want to sponsor the show, you can certainly do so. But let's talk about the importance of entertainment. What does music bring? Delivering music, what does that bring to the human spirit? What does it bring to an older person, a senior, perhaps?
Yeah, well, first, there's just plain old science behind it that shows that when and people, especially myself, so my background is healthcare and music. And when I got out of organized bands in Philadelphia and nightclubs, I went into senior communities and started singing for people. I've encountered so many people with dementia, including Alzheimer's, who were asleep when I got there, who immediately woke up and then sang the whole program and then went back to sleep. There's something in our brain, in the cerebellum, that retains the last vestiges of what's going to go are still in there, and music draws it out. So first of all, there is science behind using music therapeutically. And they tend to find that when you use music of the age that when we were, prime for, the songs we remember, and they say that's kind of between 13 and 33. In fact, there's an app out there. It's sort of AI powered. It's called Vera, and it's a take on something that was done years ago by Oliver Sacks and others called Alive Inside, Music and Memories, where they got customized playlists. And there's a famous video out there, and they put it on this gentleman's head, and you saw him come alive, literally. And that's why it was called Alive Inside, sang the program. But the key was he was then lucid for at least another 10 minutes, talking about his life and all the music influences. So just scientifically, music can just bring it out. I do an exercise in a speech that I do where I say, you don't have to have dementia to know this. And I play like 20 songs, but I do like 3 seconds of each one. And it's just the introduction, like the famous introduction to Stairway to Heaven or Hotel California. As soon as you hear that, you know what it is. But why do you know what it is? Because something in your brain is doing it. So when you use music therapeutically, but use the music that people have grown up on and know. Not that they're not open to new experiences or new music. It just creates something that not only is joyful, but is just helpful to these folks in general. We'll talk about, remind me to talk about something called social prescribing a little bit later as part of this whole discussion.
Yeah, and let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how you actually deliver this music, this entertainment to seniors, because there's not just seniors in Charlotte and Lake Norman. There are seniors all around the country. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're joined this morning by Anthony Cirillo of Sage Stream. Anthony, thanks so much for staying with us this morning.
Oh, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, this is fun. Yeah, this is an important conversation. All right, let's talk about delivery. So we all can't be in the room with Anthony playing guitar, playing piano. How do you deliver this experience? And I'm going to call it an experience. How do you deliver this experience to seniors in Charlotte, in Lake Norman, part of North Carolina, but also across the continent?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I just did a talk at the Senior Living Convention in New Orleans for assisted living executives, and I really honed in on. There's so many solutions out there in senior living. But there's only a handful that actually use music. I mentioned one in the first segment. It was called Vera. There's another one called Cora Health. But these are all either AI-based or on demand or using headsets and things like that. So what I did, first of all, my hubris was like a bunch of years ago, I got fiber optics in the neighborhood. And it was like, well, I'm just going to stream the senior living. Of course, they're going to love this. And, not so much. But during COVID, the whole conversation changed, and we created something called Sage Stream. SageStream.live is the URL. And basically the cliff notes are, pretty simple. It's a live stream in real time senior entertainment network that uses the chat function to interact with the people who are watching. The key there beyond what others are doing. Some others are doing some, but very limited live in the moment things. There's a lot of Zoom classes out there. They're educational based. You might have a music appreciation class, but there's very few, if any, and I've done a big business plan, so I kind of know this. There's very few, if any, that are doing just music live at the moment, where you actually interact with people in real time. And so I think that's the key for what we are doing. Obviously, the impact on people is huge. People don't realize. First of all, we've done, just in the Charlotte area with some adult day centers, we've done many months of programming, and we'll ask them about the feedback and using that and how does it work. And if people get shouted out during a thing that says Mabel wants happy days are here again. I don't know. I'm just making things up here, but it's great if we can provide that, or if you recognize that they went to a farmer's market, or these are real examples actually, or whatever. That little recognition is huge. And so what we do is I'm able to communicate that to the artist if the artist is not me, and they in turn can then do the shout out. And that's a huge part of why I think we're effective. The other part of this is that nobody has kind of the eclectic mix of artists from around the world that we do. A lot of times people who are doing any kind of live music it's just one person doing it, and it's the same person all the time. But the key for us is we're taking, I mentioned that kind of a live inside type of thing before, where you have personalized playlists, and that brings people alive. But we think in a group setting, though this can be used in home care, it can be used with people in their rooms, but particularly in a group setting, when you have a group of people together and somebody requests something and we honor it, maybe they turn to their neighbor and say, you know why that song's important to me? Because I could tell you, or, if I hear Ricky Don't Lose That Number from Steely Dan, I could tell you that I was on the Wildwood Boardwalk in 1975 as a teenager, walking around, and that was coming out of one of the arcades or something. Music puts you not evokes memories, it usually evokes places as well. So if you could spur those kind of conversations on, you're almost taking that alive inside concept and putting it to a group setting.
Anthony, as you're talking, just curious, is there a genre in particular? Like, I have to think, I'm just trying to think about the seniors today. Is there a genre of music that they prefer? And also part two of the question is, if I'm an artist and I want to participate, how do I do that? So what's the genre that everyone likes?
Yeah.
Is it Steely Dan? Is it the Grateful Dead? Or is it still Lawrence Welk and some of the, my grandparents who are long gone? What's the genre today that matters?
Well, it's still first of all, you can't go wrong with the Great American Songbook, right? And all those great Sinatra tunes and things like that. And what keeps reminding me of this is that I have people, so I'm 66, I don't mind saying that, but I have friends who are in their 50s, and my own son's 50, and he listens to a program in Philly every Sunday called Sunday with Sinatra, right? I have a friend, we went over and had some drinks one Sunday afternoon, and he's got Frank on in the back, and I'm like, hey, what's up with that? He says, this is good music, so there's never anything, good songs are good songs, but it's clearly moving up where people want the Stones and the Beatles and Bob Dylan. So that's part of, again, the interaction part of what we're offering is, we could tell an activity director, send us beforehand, what are your residents asking for? Then we could tell our artists, and we could shape our programs around what they want to hear, not only just take it in live, in the moment, but we've had an adult day center with the average age of person was like 70 or something. They're asking for Tennessee whiskey with Chris Stapleton. They're asking for the Monkees.
The Monkees, little Davy Jones. I love Davy Jones.
Yeah, which by the way, there's
I had that album.
My artist on my platform name is Johnny Blair, I was doing a sound check with him the other day, and he said, I don't know if you really saw my bio or not. He says, but I toured with the Monkees for 20 years. I said, well, no, it's not on your Sage Stream bio, first of all. When I go to your website, it's not there. It's not on your Facebook page. It's only when I went to his LinkedIn site. He toured with David Cassidy, like the bubblegum era, David Cassidy with the Monkees, a whole bunch of others. The first testimonial on his website to his guitar playing is from Brian Wilson. So
Beach Boys.
So
for those who don't know.
Exactly.
For
so
those who are watching, maybe in the younger demographics.
That's right. But there's hope for them too, because I do a lot of brew pubs now up in the area, and my repertoire is all over the place, and I got a lot of young people like what I do. But that gets back, Johnny Blair gets back to kind of the roster thing. So I was blessed early on to form a relationship with an organization called Music for Dementia in the UK, and these are artists who are specially trained in using music and dementia. So we did get a whole bunch of artists from the UK initially, and I onboarded a lot of people myself, and it was 1, 2 at a time. And we grew up to 40 or 50. But in the last few months, we've doubled that. And since we launched the website, there's an actual link on the website, join the roster. And when you join, when you fill that form out, it triggers me because I review it every day. And then I'll go review YouTube videos, and if it passes the first test, and I have to tell you, I'm getting a lot more selective the more people we bring on, then I ask them to send a general agreement, that just basically covers how we work together. And we have separate agreements when we actually execute, we're going to use you for this gig, and we spell out the terms and the price and all that kind of thing. But it's really simple to get started. You go to sagestream.live, you fill out the form, and then that triggers me to review your materials, and then we just kind of go from there.
Well, Anthony, if you ever have a need for a Grateful Dead guitarist and singer, I might be able to fit the bill. Anthony, we've got to cut it there. Really great to talk to you. Congratulations. And look, great work. I think you're making a lot of progress in helping people, especially people who are feeling isolated, maybe a little lonely, and maybe, unfortunately, a little depressed. Great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Thanks, Jeff. I really appreciated it.
And that wraps up this episode of BRNAM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest curated news and lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, and all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content, visit our website, and of course, all of our streaming partners. We're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRNAM. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Waiting here for you to take and drink of. But if you're tired, come on.
Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.